The i20 N-Line wasn't the first warm hatch we've ever seen in India. It wasn't even the most powerful, best handling, or the most desirable. But there is one distinction between the N-Line and every other warm hatch that has been sold in India, and that is the N-Line is still on sale in 2025, which means the i20 N-Line is the last of its kind. Let us understand the term warm hatch first. Warm hatch. Warm because these hatches are not hot. A proper hot hatch would have 180 to 200 horsepower, a limited slip diff, properly focused dynamics. These cars don't have that. India has had its fair share of hot hatches. The Polo GTI comes to mind. The Mini JCW has flirted with our market before. The Golf GTI has just made an entry. But the point of a hot hatch is to democratize thrills. And because of India's taxes and regulations and import duties, none of those cars have ever been able to democratize thrills. They've all been very expensive, which is where the warm hatch comes in. It's a truly Indian phenomena where a standard family hatchback is taken and a little bit of masala is sprinkled all over it. So you usually get a turbo-petrol engine, you usually get some cool styling or stickers on the outside, some cool styling and stickers on the inside, and then the most important bit, dynamics. These cars usually get a retuned suspension or a lowered chassis or wider tires or some sort of focus on making it better to drive. And of course, these cars are affordable because they're based on made in India cars, because they're based on regular family cars. The economies of scale are there, they're manufactured here, they're localized here, and that allows them to be priced relatively sensibly. These cars don't have the performance to be called full-blown hot hatches, but they aren't regular hatchbacks either, which is where the term warm hatch comes from. But the i20 N-Line wasn't the first. It was built on the shoulders of legends, starting with this, the Fiat Palio S10, bright yellow with Sachin Tendulkar's signatures on it. It was the genesis of the warm hatch in India. It made 99 horsepower at the time and it did 0 to 100 in about 12 seconds, which doesn't seem like much today, but back in 2001, it was an absolute rocket ship. It also handled really well. Of course, there were issues. It was Italian, it had reliability issues, quality issues, and most importantly, it never had the same fuel efficiency as a Maruti, which was super important in the noughties. But nevertheless, this is the genesis. This is where it all began for warm hatches in India. And then, fast forward a decade, that's when we got this, the Polo GT TSI. The Polo GT TSI debuted in 2013 and it brought with it the TSI engine and the DSG gearbox, technology that we had never seen in a small car before. It was revolutionary. It featured in the first issue of Evo India back in 2013, where we put it up against a race Polo. You must remember, VW was already knee-deep in motorsport in 2013. They were already on the rally scene and the Polo Cup was on in full swing. Back in 2013, we wrote back then, finally, here's a car with motorsport genes and heritage that you can buy from the showroom, drive to work every day, and have a lot of fun in over the weekends. The Polo GT TSI is also the car that lasted in India the longest. It was only discontinued in 2022 when the Polo was discontinued in India. Right from 2013 till today, it has left a lasting impression on us and we still can't stop raving about it. But there is one car that made the most power here, and that was this. This is the Fiat Abarth Punto. This is the closest we ever got to a full-blown hot hatch in India. The Abarth Punto got a 1.4-litre T-Jet engine that made 143 horsepower and 211 Nm of torque. It was the quickest thing we could get at the time at this price point. It also had lowered suspension, it had disc brakes all around and a retuned chassis to make it more nimble. The Punto finally has an engine to exploit its chassis, we said back then. Of course, it had its flaws, shift quality, seating position, interior quality. There were a lot of issues with the car, but the verdict was, when a car is this much fun to drive, who cares? Right after the Punto Abarth came Maruti Suzuki's stab at this segment with the Baleno RS. Lightness was its biggest advantage. It was 170 kilos lighter than the Polo. It was a whole quarter-ton lighter than the Abarth Punto, and that made the 100.5 horsepower in this car feel plenty. The Baleno may not be as quick through the gears, as manual shifting will not match the quick shifts of a DSG gearbox, but it is a lot more involving, we proclaimed back then. The suspension was stiffer than the standard Balenos, but obviously not as stiff as the other cars here. It handled really well, it drove really well, and while it was alive, it put a lot of smiles on our faces. But there was another car that was doing that around the same time, and that was not this, because this is the freestyle that came a little later. It was the Figo S. The Figo had already been around for a while, but the Figo S came in and upped the ante. Not with more power, the 1.5 diesel still made the same 99 horsepower, but it got a stiffer suspension, it got beefier anti-roll bars, and it got wider tires. The balance of the Figo S and the confidence at high speeds is encouraging, we wrote at the first drives. The freestyle soon followed in 2018 with a jacked up suspension and a new 1.2-litre turbo-petrol engine. It was also very nice to drive, not a match for the Figo S, but both were discontinued when Ford exited India in 2022. Which brings us to the last car on this list, the Tata Tiago JTP. This was Tata Motors' short stab at this enthusiast hatchback segment. They created a joint venture with JM Automotive, which was started by J. Anand in Coimbatore, and he tuned these cars to become more enthusiastic. It got the engine from the Nexon as well as shorter ratios. Back in our review in November 2018, we wrote, there's an urgency, an enthusiasm, and a sense that everything has been done by enthusiasts. It was never as creamy smooth or refined as something like the Polo GT, but the handling made it special. And at Rs 6.3 lakhs in 2018, we very rightly concluded in our review that you will not find a car that comes close to matching its smiles per miles ratio. But this has always been a difficult segment for manufacturers because, let's be real, these cars are aimed squarely at the enthusiasts, and enthusiasts like you and me, we're not that common. Plus, it's very difficult for dealerships to communicate something like driving feel. A sunroof, on the other hand, very easy. You can see it right there on your car. Another thing is hatchbacks were never aspirational. Sure, your first car is a hatchback, but your second car is usually a sedan or an SUV. And because of that, these expensive hatchbacks got caught somewhere in the middle. They were also very colorful with loud stickers and loud graphics on them, and they were never efficient. And because of that, India's masses never took to them in the way that they should have. The i20 N-Line is actually a very well executed version of that warm hatch formula. On the outside, you've got the visual drama. So you've got this blacked out grille with the N-Line badge on it. You've got these red accents all over, on the bumper, on the side skirts, even at the rear. You've got a smattering of N-Line badges all over the car, on the fenders, on the tailgate, on the wheels. The wheels themselves are a very cool design. They look really nice stationary, and they're a different design from the standard i20. And behind them, you get red brake calipers. Step inside and the sporty theme continues. You've got a new steering wheel over here, and this is a direct lift-off of the i20N, the actual hot hatch from Hyundai. You've got an N badge at the bottom, nice paddle shifters at the back, feels very good to hold. You've got red accents all over the interior, so all over the dash, on the piping, on the seats, and you've got a lot of N badges. So you've got one on the gear shifter, and you've got them on the seat backs as well. And over here, they finished in this Alcantara finish, which looks really nice. But my favorite visual change to the i20 N-Line has to be the tailpipes at the rear. Plus, they make the car sound really fruity as well. And while that exhaust is entertaining, particularly on a cold start, it's the mechanical package of the i20 that's really nice. So under the hood, you get a 3-cylinder turbo GDI engine. Now, this engine used to be on the regular i20 before, but there's no more turbo regular i20. If you want the turbocharged engine, you're only getting the N-line, which is great. Hyundai is doubling down on the warm hatchback. Outputs 118 bhp and 172 Nm of torque. And that comes together to give this really sharp performance. This is an engine with plenty of torque. You get a nice slug of performance as soon as you get out of the turbo lag. Boost comes on strongly. It's a little linear. It's not a very sudden input of boost. It's very linear, and it's around 3,500–4,000 RPM that it really starts to really push and push hard. Responsiveness is good as long as you're on boost, and this is an engine that can really pull along this tiny little i20 really well. It's got this 3-cylinder thrum as you go about business, and you can just hear a hint of that exhaust in the background. It's more audible from the outside realistically than the inside, but that doesn't matter because this engine is a peppy little thing. In this car, it comes mated to a 7-speed DCT. Now this DCT is set up more for smoothness than for outright performance, and its shifts are very quick and very smooth, and you don't even get that traditional DCT jerkiness at low speeds. It's a lot smoother than Volkswagen's DSG, but it doesn't shift as quickly and it doesn't feel as aggressive. Okay, you'll get a little bit of a kick on downshifts and occasionally on upshifts, but it's not the most aggressive gearbox, which is alright. They're probably prioritizing longevity over here. The good thing is you can also get the N-line with a manual. So if you want one, it'll be a little cheaper, which is a good thing, and you'll get more involvement. But where the real magic with the N-line is on the dynamics front. You see, this engine has been unchanged from what the standard i20 turbo used to be when there was an i20 turbo on sale. The chassis, on the other hand, has been reworked. So your damping has been made stiffer, your steering has been dialed in a little bit, so it's a little quicker. It's the same steering rack, the hardware is the same, but the tuning is a little different. And you'll be surprised at what a difference that makes to the driving experience. Suddenly, this i20 that felt quite soft and soggy and comfortable is tied down, it's hunkered down, it feels a lot more stable, and it feels a lot more direct. Get into corners, put in a little bit of steering angle, and this thing just feels so dialed in. It feels more reactive to your inputs, plus the stiffer suspension also helps here. There's less roll, so the car just feels more in control all of the time, because when you put those lateral loads through the car, it isn't just squatting on its side, but there's genuine body control. There's a genuine ability to hold the road at those lateral angles, and it's a whole lot of fun. Now the steering, it is EPS, so you do feel a little bit removed from the driving experience. It is a little bit vague, but that's the nature of all EPS steering wheels. Something like a Palio GTX or even the Abarth Punto would have had a lot better in terms of steering feel. You get real confidence from the front end. You know what corner of the car is doing what, and you can just lean on that. Spending some time in the i20 N-line, it feels like it's been built for the enthusiast. It likes to dance in the corners, it will thrill you, it feels peppy, it feels quick, and the limits are not super high, so you can actually really ring it out on our roads without breaking the rules. I think the most important thing of a car like the N-Line is the fact that it puts a smile on your face. And isn't that what warm hatchbacks, hot hatchbacks, fun cars are all about? The final chassis upgrade that the i20 N-Line gets is the brakes. You get discs all around, which is a good thing. This is an upgrade over the standard i20. The regular i20 doesn't get that, and it just does improve braking performance that little bit and give you that little bit of confidence when you're pushing it harder. And it does all of that while being really well equipped. One of the USPs of the i20 has always been its equipment levels, and that continues even in the N-Line. You know, you get your sunroof, you get your Bose audio, you get your 10.25-inch touchscreen, you get your digital cluster, you get paddle shifters, you get auto AC, you get your wireless phone charger. So all of the stuff that you would want in your car to keep you comfortable on the road, the i20 gets. And now I know what I said at the start. This isn't the fastest car of this lot. The Abarth was. This isn't the best handling car of this lot. The Figo S was. This isn't the most desirable car of this lot. That was the Polo GT. But the i20, it is probably the most complete car in this lot. It does everything really well and makes very, very, very few compromises. However, there is a threat to the i20, and it comes from within. The compact SUV segment has decimated the premium hatchback segment. These compact SUVs, well, they're basically hatchbacks on stilts, have great ground clearance, which is really well suited to Indian road conditions. You also have an elevated seating position, which gives you good visibility and also a sense of security behind the wheel. Plus, they have better road presence, and so much of car ownership nowadays is about flexing. These compact SUVs tick all those boxes. It's also natural for manufacturers to want to push these cars. They can command better margins on compact SUVs, so profitability is higher when they sell these cars compared to hatchbacks. Just look at the number of compact SUVs on sale in India today. This segment is flooded with SUVs, probably the most competitive segment in terms of options today, whereas the premium hatchback segment, not as many. But this isn't the end of the road. There are glimmers of hope on the horizon. Now that Maruti Suzuki has localized the 1-liter booster jet engine, can they put it into the Swift and create the Swift, I don't know, sport line? Or can Tata Motors take the 1.2 GDI turbo-petrol engine and put it into the Altroz and create a proper Altroz racer? We're just gonna have to wait and watch. But until then, it's the Hyundai i20 N-Line that is holding fort in the warm hatch segment. It looks good, it's nice from the inside, it's well kitted out, but most importantly, it's nice to drive and it puts a smile on your face. As of 2025, the Hyundai i20 N-Line truly is the last of its kind.